Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today, Duane Toews is at the Wichita Farm and Ranch Show as KFRM hosts the Market Shootout IX, an opportunity to hear from market analysts such as Pete Loewen, who updates us on the wheat crop. Next, Derrick Hermesch joins Duane and discusses the corn crop. We'll also bring you this week's Kansas Soybean report. And Mark Gold talks about soybeans. Finishing up is Tom Leffler, who talks about the ups and downs of the cattle market. It's all coming up on Farm Factor. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment is brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Good morning and welcome back to Farm Factor at the Wichita Farm and Ranch Expo. Today, Duane Toews visits first with Pete Loewen about wheat.
Duane Toews joining you once again on Ag AM in Kansas. And while at the Wichita Farm and Ranch Show, we hosted the Market Shootout IX, an opportunity to hear from the market analysts on KFRM about different topics that they spoke with producers that night. We take the opportunity to talk specifically about wheat with Pete Loewen, Loewen and Associates. And Pete, certainly a time of the year when a lot of people are looking forward with the next year's crop.
Definitely, and you know, from a marketing standpoint, we went through a summer where we were pretty wet throughout hard red winter wheat country. Then it dried out, people trying to get wheat planted, and wasn't a lot of marketing opportunities going into that, not having so many production uncertainties. Then we caught the rains in late October through a big part of wheat country anyway, through the high plains and down through South Texas and then through central Oklahoma. Of course, it skipped a big chunk of northern Oklahoma and Kansas, but then we caught those. And then lo and behold, you sit here historically very low prices, and now you've got some production potential but no sales opportunities, it seems like.
Obviously, we've dealt with that with last year's crop. Looking ahead, world wheat numbers, there's plenty of it out there, and it may be a little tricky to market the 16 crop.
There's no doubt. You know, we've got world production that's record large, close to 27 billion bushels, and to try to put the U.S. into perspective with that, we raise about 2 billion plus or minus bushels of wheat per year compared to 27 in the world. And over time, the U.S. has also accounted for less and less of the world export trade as well. So basically, we produce about 8% of the crop and export about 14% of it. So wheat has become a very global market with everybody able to grow it, and when you've got big world supply and you've got adequate U.S. supply, it makes it tough from a price standpoint.
We think about this fall, pretty dry through the northern sections of the wheat belt, a little wetter down to the south. You guys still not got that crop up yet, and some uncertainty as to how far do you go in terms of marketing next year's crop when you don't know what you've got.
Well, one, yeah, there's obviously production uncertainty still. We get wheat crop conditions on a weekly basis now, and even after the rains, it didn't improve as much as what people anticipated, I believe. But we've got a major dilemma in the fact that we've got prices at historical low type levels compared to where we've been the last 8 to 10 years, and in a lot of instances, costs that are priced that's below production costs. So tough circumstance for wheat. You hope you're going to produce it. You really don't like the price opportunity that's being offered to you in the market right now.
We look at the value of the U.S. dollar as strong maybe now as it's been in quite some time. That doesn't help us on that export scene either.
No, it doesn't help us at all. In fact, through the last several months, you know, our weekly export sales in wheat have been very poor. And the last report we had in November, USDA cut wheat exports by about 50 million bushels, but in my opinion, it's going to be cut more than that. Typically, in most of the larger wheat export tenders that we get lately, U.S. wheat values from exporters are anywhere from 40 to 80 cents above per bushel, higher than other competing world exporters, which obviously makes it difficult for anybody to want to buy our wheat.
Our thanks to Pete Loewen joining us at the Market Shootout in Wichita at the Farm and Ranch Show. Jamie, back to you.
Stay with us. Duane will be back in a moment with Derrick Hermesch.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com. Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome. Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com. Ag AM in Kansas brought to you in part by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome back to Farm Factor. Let's join Duane and Derrick as they discuss the corn crop.
Duane Toews with you again on Ag AM in Kansas. While at the Wichita Farm and Ranch Show, Market Shootout IX with KFRM and the Wichita Farm and Ranch Show, Derrick Hermesch joined us. Opportunity to talk a little more in depth about corn specifically, Derrick. And obviously, we look at fall harvest as it went very quickly for a lot of people. There's a lot of bushels out there, it appears, as well.
There is, and it does appear that bushels are growing, especially we got some more news after today's USDA report that was quite bearish for corn here in the short term and maybe affect the long term. But the corn market at this point in the year, you know, we've been trading basically nowhere for the last 3 to 4 months. It seems like since we got off of our high spot there back in July and fell off as the problems of the Illinois and Indiana area appeared to be patched up somewhat by how the other areas of the Corn Belt have reacted, getting good weather and on the fringes of the West and in Iowa and having really good yields. The key thing I think right now for corn producers, as you look out here, you know, and wonder what to do, there are a lot of areas where even though the corn futures price is not moving in your favor, you have seen regional cash prices, basis, improve in some areas very dramatically. There are positive basis values in those trouble areas in Illinois and Indiana, but they have filtered out some, especially to the eastern part of the state of Kansas, maybe not quite made it out to the west and central parts where we've had good harvest areas compared to historical. But there has been a good basis improvement. There is basis improvement, I believe, to definitely be taking advantage of right now at this juncture, and that is a key for producers to be looking at right now, in my mind.
As far as we look at the corn market, you kind of referenced, we've been sitting in a pretty sideways trend, not really going anywhere fast. Probably don't see that changing anytime soon either, other than with this negative pressure from the recent crop report.
The negative pressure very well might push us a little bit further south outside of our trading range that we have been in for a while. Like I said, basis is your one thing to hang your hat on, and definitely look at some opportunities as far as forecasting, something better. Weather down the road very well may do it, and South America weather is always key, especially when it comes to soybean, but could affect corn price as well. But for now, no. There is not anything really on the short-term horizon that looks, really great to be bringing anything spectacular or a whole lot of noise with it. Other than we'll see how ethanol reacts in all of this, where we've had some stability, had some lower prices. Whether we probably maybe not see ethanol expansion, but there has been talk of exporting more ethanol to the likes of like China and so forth. Not that that's something you should be getting too uber fired up about, but it could be something that grows a few more legs as we get down the road, and still if we experience cheaper corn prices in general.
All right, thanks to Derrick Hermesch for joining us from Wichita, the Farm and Ranch Show here on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, back to you.
Thanks, Duane. It's time for a quick break, but don't go far away. Next up is this week's Kansas Soybean Update.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. We're joined now by Greg Anderson, who's part of the governing board for the National Biodiesel Board. Greg, a lot to talk about, but of the fact, the use of biodiesel.
And we're really pleased, Greg, with the acceptance and usage of biodiesel across the country, really from coast to coast, literally. And we like that 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, pretty soon, 2 billion gallons. It's huge where we were just a few years ago to realize how fast it really has grown. One of the market drivers has been the renewable fuel standard, and biodiesel is really the tip of the spear leading that effort. We're America's first advanced biofuel, but we're also the only advanced biofuel that's commercially available, and it's having tremendous success in California, where they really want to address the emissions problems and clean up the air, to the East Coast, where they're blending it with oil heat and making bioheat, heating millions of homes and businesses. And so with that, farmers in the Midwest can be very proud. The soybean checkoff virtually established the biodiesel industry in the United States, and it's using a lot of soybean oil, really underpinning our market and helping it along.
We should see those renewable fuel standards revised numbers here by the end of the month. How much of a concern is there that number is going to come in lower for biodiesel?
When EPA came out with their initial numbers, we thought that they were all right, but yet could have been more robust and increased it even more. And so we've worked with EPA, providing them data and credible information showing that we are poised to grow, and here's the research behind it, here's the numbers behind it. We're actually looking for 2 billion gallons for the number for 2016 and 2.3 billion gallons for 2017. We feel that with those numbers, it allows our biodiesel manufacturers, our producers, to have some confidence knowing that they can scale up, increase their production, do the additional hiring that they want to do, providing tens of thousands of good-paying green jobs across the whole country.
Something that MBB has always fought is the extension of the biodiesel tax credit, and that's back on the agenda.
4 out of the last 6 years, Congress has allowed it to expire, most recently in December of 2014. So we've gone through the whole year of 2015 without that tax credit. We're confident, though, that it will be reinstated and perhaps even additional year so that we can have some confidence in going forward for those businesses that can rely on that and need that. We feel that that's a very fair, equitable way. Biodiesel is still pretty young as a fuel. Big oil has been subsidized for decades, and so it shows that once we get this in place, we can certainly grow our market even more.
That is Greg Anderson, as part of the governing board of the National Biodiesel Board. He's been our guest on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay tuned as Duane visits with Mark Gold about soybeans.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484. Heinen Brothers, a fourth-generation Northeast Kansas farm family, knows how tough farming can be. Farmers helping farmers. Heinen Brothers Ag, selling and servicing crop protection products, fertilizer, anhydrous ammonia, cover crops, quality aerial and ground application. Call today to learn about our extended term financing program. 800-760-4964. HeinenBrothersAg.com.
This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag, farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's catch up with Duane and Mark Gold at the Wichita Farm and Ranch Expo during the Market Shootout IX.
Duane Toews joining you once again from the Wichita Farm and Ranch Expo Market Shootout IX, a program that KFRM provides to around 500 producers across Kansas that take in the event. An opportunity to catch up with the analysts specifically to talk about one commodity, and an opportunity to catch up with Mark Gold. Mark, you drew soybeans, and maybe as much volatility there that we see as of late, but looking to the future, further into the fall and on to next year, give a little opinion on how you think the soybean market may react as we move forward.
Well, we took a hit today because of the report, but when you looked at the world supply on the soybean number, it came down a little over 2 million metric tons, which is a little bit positive out here. Now the question is the amount of corn and wheat that we've got going to keep dragging the beans down? I'm not so sure. One of the reasons the beans have made new lows in here is because we've had rains in Brazil. There's been a lot of talk about El Nino. So far, it really hasn't developed all that strong, particularly in Brazil because they've had some rains. But this is like talking about rains in April in the United States. We've got the whole summer in Brazil to see what's really going to happen there. And because they are looking at raising so much grain this year, predominantly beans, that if they lose 10, 20% of their crop for whatever reason, you got a bean market. So do I want to be bearish down here at 850 beans? You know, I'll let somebody else try to get the last 50 cents that might be there. Now, there's some people that think, $6.50 beans are out there. I disagree. I believe that something is going to happen between now and June or July that will give the American farmer for the 2016 crop the ability to sell both corn and beans at profitable levels. I've been in the grain business over 40 years, and I've never seen a year yet where we didn't get one opportunity to sell grain at good prices. But right here at the lows, are we going to do it down here? No. Hopefully we're going to see some kind of rally.
This year, a bit of an anomaly, so terribly late with the crop, the corn obviously, but that pushed bean planting back as well. Some of it didn't get planted at all, but we had an unbelievable summer and a great fall for those beans to finish.
No question about it. When you look at basically a 4 billion bushel bean crop, it's a big crop, record yields, record production out here. So the beans had it better than the corn did. We still had pretty good corn yields considering what happened in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and Missouri. But the fact of the matter is the American farmer has the ability with today's genetics to grow unbelievably big crops.
We saw what those yields can be this fall, beautiful fall harvest weather, and they came out maybe on record pace compared to some years, and they got to do that without firing up the dryers or anything else.
Well, that's been the good news, is they've been able to save some money on these harvest costs. Guys got through these fields very quickly, and the drying was just really minimal out here, so it saved them a little bit of dough. Now, hopefully, we've been doing this a long time, and hopefully the farmers have listened to some of the recommendations we made, that if they were putting grain in the bin, that they need to be trying to capture some carry that's out there, re-own it with call options. And I still think for the 15 crop, that makes a lot of sense. There's virtually no carry in the bean market, very little in the corn market. I think you have to ask yourself, why are you storing it? Well, if you're storing it for higher prices, that's why you buy the call option. Again, there's been some marketing opportunities on the 15 crop, but I'm looking forward to 16 when we get that, hopefully one good rally that'll be able to use some options at a very effective pace.
Well, our thanks to Mark Gold, Top Third Ag Marketing, joining us at the Market Shootout in Wichita at the Farm and Ranch Show.
Thanks, Duane. Folks, don't go away. Next up, Duane visits with Tom Leffler about the cattle industry.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand. And I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor as Tom talks about the ups and downs of the cattle market over the last couple of months.
Duane Toews joining you once again here at the Wichita Farm and Ranch Expo. During the market shootout, 4 analysts from KFRM had the opportunity to talk with growers and producers here in the Central Plains. We pulled them aside, talk specifically about one commodity. Tom, I'm not sure how we ended up with the short straw, but you got to talk about cattle and talk about a market in the last couple of months here that's taken a beating. The cattle market certainly has had its downs and its even worse downs.
That's even putting it mildly. We have seen a cattle market that has went from just a year ago having record highs, be it the cash market, be it the live cattle, feeder cattle futures market, even box beef prices. Then you look at where we are now, we have seen quite a pullback, and it's a situation where producers are having a hard time actually understanding what's happened to them. The worst thing is, last year when we had those record high prices, we was seeing producers selling the board, buying put options, and then very unhappy because they was making margin calls and they've seen their puts expire worthless. This year they decided we're not going to make that mistake again. A lot of producers went naked this year and they're paying the price as we continue to see this market collapse to the downside technically and fundamentally.
We've heard anecdotal reports of $500, $600, even $700 losses on some of these fed cattle that came out this fall. It doesn't take long to burn up a lot of equity and kind of test your mettle if you want to jump back in with another pin.
That's exactly right, Duane. And what we're going to see is we're going to see some old faces disappear feeding cattle. We're going to see some new faces appear like we've seen quite often in cattle cycles, because just what you said, we're seeing big losses out there in the equity. We're seeing banks starting to back off on trying to finance cattle. We're seeing some feed yards that are suffering a little bit too, because when prices get lower, we start to see the feed yards starting to partner more with customers to get them to come in, then they're sharing in large losses too. And now this whole cattle situation, even when things were great, the people that was struggling the most was the people that was finishing cattle. Cow-calf producer done great, stockers done great, the feeders out there done great. It was the feed yard that has suffered the most. They did have small periods of great gains, but overall they was losing money more times than not.
Obviously, we talk a lot of times about the highs too high, the lows too low. That may be a case again this time around.
That's a very good ideal there, because last year's highs were extremely too high. They got a lot of help from speculators, managed money pushing them up. But now we're seeing these lows where I would agree they're too low, but that's what happens. We have a tendency to push things too far. One thing you might want to think about, if you're buying cattle down the road, think about purchasing call options or buying the board as a way to protect yourself if markets do go higher and you're paying more for those cash cattle down the road.
Final thoughts about the cattle market, Tom?
Everything comes back. Keep in mind, when we're down on the lows, people start to think there's no way it's going to come back. You might remember that most of the bad news comes out in the bottom of the market. Most of the good news comes out in the top of the market. About the time you give up on it's when it turns around. So stay optimistic. Things will change. Just give it time. Be patient. And when you do have a chance to lock in break-evens or lock in profits, take advantage of it. Don't pass it up.
Tom Leffler, Leffler Commodities, one of the market analysts that joined us at the Market Shootout 9 at the Wichita Farm and Ranch Show. Jamie, back to you.
Thanks again for joining us for the Market Shootout 9 at the Wichita Farm and Ranch Expo. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.